Hello folks, I thought I'd show you the next installment of War Games that I'm going to put on my website for a free PDF. This one is called the Vikings Siege of Paris. It is a state of siege game. It is card driven, so you're going to turn over a card and read events that happen in history as you work through the deck. You'll read the text, then you'll see which of the Vikings will advance, how your resources will be affected, and if there's any dice roll modifiers to go with them. So for an example, on this card, all the Vikings would advance. So Ivor the Boneless, Ragnar Lothbrok, Bjorn, and the Viking One, which is basically, I'll be calling the Berserkers, would all advance one. And you also have some strategy elements, supply, military, and morale. In this particular case, your supply would go up by 1. And how you would use these, you would use these along with your dice rolls. So you have a decision to make. You can move back one of the Vikings, or you can try and increase these with the dice roll, and you apply your modifiers at any time. If you use military, you would add 1 to your attack die. So for an example, if I wanted to move back Ivor, all the Vikings are set at 2. If I use my military, I would increase it to a 3. So, or I add 1 to my dice roll. So if I was to roll, I rolled a 6, so I would add 1 to that, which is 7. And of course, I'd move Ivor back. If I use a supply, that's just an extra turn. So say I roll a 1 and I didn't move Ivor back and I really wanted to move him back, I could use the supply to gain an extra turn. And same with morale. If you have morale, you use 2 morale to bump up one of these 2. Now, if your military ever gets to 0, whoever is the lowest Viking on the track would have an automatic advancement. So you don't want your military to reach 0. If your supply ever reaches 0, you're down to 1 turn. So you get 2 turns every single time. But if your supply is on 1, you would only get 1 turn. So to increase your supply, that would be your turn. You'd roll the die and have to roll higher than a 2 in order to improve it. If your morale is ever at 0, the Viking strength automatically gets added. So all of these would now be 3. So in order to move them back, you'd have to roll a 4, 5, or a 6. The other thing you would do at the start of the game is set your defense on Paris. So to begin, your defense is at 2. And each of these is set to 2. Sort of get a freebie to start. But if you wanted to increase your defense of Paris, you can move that to a 3. But you'd have to take away 2 of these to start the game. So I may move my military 1 and morale 1, and that's how I would start. If you wanted to set your defense at 4, I'd have to move these back 4. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. And on my first turn, I'd probably have to try and increase my morale. Now, if you roll a 1, you could be in a lot of trouble because now your Vikings are all at 3, and you'd have to use your second turn to move them. So that how that is set. And the way it comes into be is if any of the Vikings ever reach Paris, in order for them to storm the wall, they have to beat your defense number. So if it is at 4, the Vikings would have to roll a 5 or a 6. And in this case, they roll a 5, so they would storm the wall. If they do storm the wall, you then go into the final chapter of the game, and that is the Siege of Paris itself. First thing you would do is one of your defenses is to use hot oil. You want to throw it over at the Vikings as they come across, and you roll your dice in order to place your Vikings. So if I was to roll this, this is a 6, so it would go anywhere. I'll put him here. I roll a 1. Ragnar Lothbrok would have to go in the north section of the fort. I roll a 1. Bjorn would go to the one next door. The Berserkers would go there. From there, I can decide which one of my French military, they're all rated the same, but they may lose something during the course of battle, and I would put them opposite. And when you're rolling in the actual war, the Siege of Paris, the first number here represents their attack die. So 1 to 3, the Vikings would strike. 1 to 2 for the French. Second die is their shield wall. So for the Vikings, Ragnar Lothbrok, if there were to be a hit by the French, they roll a 2, their shield wall may protect them. If I roll a 1 or a 2, that hit would not strike. If I did roll a 4, they would get struck from the French, and they have 3 lives. They would turn to 2. If they get hit again, they'd turn to 1. They hit again, they come off the map. So once all this is all done, the hot oil over the edge is just a one-time use that would go away, and you would continue the battle firing at each other until last man is standing. Now, the other thing you can do that I've mentioned during the course of the game is once the Vikings get close to the rope, you can activate the rope. That would sling across the Seine River. And however Vikings are caught in that particular section of the rope, for example, if it looked like this when I decided to play this card, and this card is just in your hand, you can use it any time. Two things would happen. One, you would advance 3 cards on the timer deck or the event deck because there's 3 armies. If there was just 2 when you decided to play it, you would only advance 2 cards. So it's to help you get through the deck quicker. If you get through the deck without any issues or problems, or you go through the deck, then you would automatically lose, or you would win if you get through the deck, if you use all the cards. If the Vikings say you had some that were over and 2 were here, you'd only turn 2 over in the timing deck. The other thing that would happen is once you do pull the rope, you have the Vikings come to an abrupt halt. You can add your militia and your archers to attack Ivor. And that would be a battle in itself. The archers would get the first attack. So for an example, if I was just to roll right now, the archers shoot, it's a 3. It's a successful hit. Ivor's shield wall is a 1, so 1 protects him. It does not. So Ivor is hit, he's down to 2. Now, the game from that point, the French would get 1 surprise hit, and from there on, you would take turns. So if the archers were to go again, you roll a 6, that is a miss. So now it is Ivor's turn. He rolls a 5, he misses. Probably the archers would take the next one. That is a 6, it misses. Ivor shoots, he misses on a 6. I'm going to come back with the archers for the French. That is a hit. Now, if the shield wall protects them, and it does not, so Ivor is down to 1. So the French are having a lot of luck attacking the Vikings. Ivor will roll. It is a 5. He has to get a 1 to 3 to hit. He misses. So the archers, again, the archers don't have any defense. So once he rolls a 1, 2, or a 3, the archers are taken out. They roll a 6. They don't get it. There's a 3, so the archers would be taken out by Ivor. The next thing, now the French turn. Now the militia continue the fight. They're just a 2-2. Or they can retreat back to Paris and fight at another day. If they do take out Ivor, his boat and him comes off. So at this point, with Ivor down to 1, the French might take advantage and keep this battle going and seeing how it progresses. So that's what it looks like, and I'll probably set up and have a playthrough. I'm still working and correcting some of the cards and things, sort of play testing. But that'll be the next one. Hopefully we'll have it up in the next week or so. It's probably 90% finished. And it is called Vikings Siege of Paris. It's another State of Siege game. hopefully with enough strategy elements that can make it a lot of fun. That's all for now, folks.